We are deeply sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. Sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. Sorry. We're sorry. I'm deeply sorry. Sorry.
Yep, another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet rant video. I'm Galactic Jack, and this is my admittedly ranty video about what's, in my opinion, some of the worst Pokemon games to come out in a while. You know what they say about opinions, everybody's got one, and if yours differs from mine, you're wrong. 8 months after release, there's not a whole lot I can say about this game that hasn't already been said by much more articulated and well-spoken YouTubers that are infinitely better than me at articulating their critiques and criticisms of the game. So I'm just gonna tell you why I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sucks. I have no idea how to structure this video, so I'm just gonna dole out my criticisms in the order I personally experienced them. Let's start with the early game, which is probably the worst part. So the game begins with character creation. Personally, I think it was a pretty smart move to remove the gender selection. So now you don't really have to worry about male or female, just make your character look how you want them to look, right? Well, no matter what options you select, you're a painfully soft-faced 10-year-old. And also, if you're a black male, this is your hairstyle. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Next, we get the obligatory Welcome to the World of Pokemon cutscene, with this game's just as obligatory Pikachu clone, followed by a cutscene of your box art legendary soaring through the sky in a way that, and trust me on this, you never will, past some very unimaginatively designed flamingos. I don't know about you, but my journey began with a single thought. I gotta ditch this goofy ass uniform. Oh, little did I know. I'm just gonna address this whole point now. You ain't coming out of that uniform. It took me hours of gameplay to realize that. A game that doesn't even require you to go to school doesn't let you take the uniform off. Yes, there's 4 seasonal uniforms, which don't really make much of a difference. There were so many unique clothing options even in Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon. Even Alfornata, the fashion town, where the gym leader is a supermodel and makeup artist, does not even have unique customization options. It doesn't even have a barbershop or a clothing store, just a fucking sandwich shop. The only customizable parts of your outfit are the shoes, socks, gloves, eyewear, and gigantic hats. And almost none of it matches the goofy ass uniform that you can't take off. It's not all bad though, because for only $30 more, you can get a different uniform for purchasing the DLC, which they shove in your face as soon as you're allowed to open the menu. Anyways, while your mom pretends to be busy, the academy director personally comes to your house to offer you your first Pokemon. I took the grass cat because, come on, it's adorable. But instead of letting you take your Pokemon right there, you're forced to walk a half mile with them so the game can show off how easily they get trapped behind the architecture. Next, you battle nice guy rival Nimona on the biggest, emptiest beach in the world. You can tell she's a nice guy rival because she picks the Pokemon weak to yours. Of course. After beating her, she gives you some Pokeballs and the game finally loosens the reins a little bit to let you go do some exploring. Now, to the game's credit, they make a whole lot of Pokemon available to you right at the start. But as I walked down Poco Path, I noticed something was a little bit off. The Pokemon weren't doing anything. They were just kind of there. Like, have you ever just stepped outside and seen a group of animals in their idle animation? Like, not doing anything? Anything at all? Oh, and no one's really talking about this, but when you catch a flying Pokemon, why do the Pokeballs float now? They didn't used to do that, I'm just saying. Say, kid, you got a lot. Excuse me? Why don't you put me one of them little balls and take me down to the gas station? I'm good, man. I gotta go. Suit yourself, you little bastard. So there's this big roar and you and Amona go to investigate. So a group of incredibly stupid little Houndour are picking on a giant freaking lizard. So you give the lizard your mom's super delicious sandwich, which for some reason restores it to its original strength. That turkey on rye ain't no joke. And now I get to talk about one of the biggest, dumbest parts of this game. The constant, non-stop fade transitions. Oh my god, they're fucking everywhere. Instead of showing something actually happening, they just fade away and we can just assume that it happens. In this scene alone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 fade transitions back to back, followed by the ugliest pop-in I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe the earliest parts of this game look this bad. This is the part of the game that most players are going to get to experience. I mean, this game is fighting for its life sometimes just to do the simplest stuff. Look at this Houndoom scene. What the fuck is this slow shit? Then Nimona takes you to the top of the lighthouse to see the sights.
Oh my goodness!
This is supposed to be their big sweeping landscape shot to show off all their hard work designing the environment? Because if so, I am not impressed. Your next stop on the way to school is Mesagoza, kind of the game's central hub town. And it's so barren. It's so barren. There's almost nobody here. Too many people and this game would crash. So it seems like the NPCs are kind of only here for the purpose of the game not looking empty, which somehow makes it look even worse. Everybody's just walking around robotically without purpose, spewing their one-note catchphrase.
Sure
I'm
is
helping.
tough being a kid.
I'm helping.
It sure is tough being a kid.
On top of that, the game is really struggling to maintain any semblance of a frame rate. If something's not right in front of your face, it is running at 2 frames per second and popping the fuck in. The render distance is just trash. Look at these. Look at this. Look at this. Look. And oh god, that other one disappeared, dude. Look at those Swablu, dude. Those Swablu are ass. Look at that lady go down the stairs. Then once you get to school, they've got the nerve to show you this horrible classroom. Half the kids are just running at 0 frames per second. They might as well be standing still, not to mention the recycled animations. Ugh. Also, while trying to talk to some kids in the class, I accidentally discovered a bug that just lets you slide across the floor when you talk to them. Yeah, but I guess that part's actually pretty realistic. After wasting your time talking to a completely still JPEG of Professor Soda, Director Clavel announces the school treasure hunt. This game's reason to not keep you actually confined to the school the whole game. Students of all ages from 4 to 64 are to find themselves some type of nebulous treasure that you kind of just decide what it is, I guess. And now you're finally free to ride your box art legendary and actually go play the rest of the game. Let's go! You still with me? Let's move on to the mid-game. Okay, training wheels are off, right? Go do what you want. Not so much. This game is open world, yes, but it doesn't really feel like it was designed to be. The game is technically still linear. Sure, you can do the main story beats in the order, but the game doesn't really have the mechanics to support that. Pokemon's really only a skill-based game when you're battling on a mostly equal playing field. When there's an obstacle you can't overcome, you kind of just can't. Your level 15 team cannot defeat Grisha's level 50 team. It doesn't really matter what your skill level or game knowledge is because there's no level scaling. You're still encouraged to do the gyms in an intended order, because higher level Pokemon are just plain faster and stronger than you. You're just gonna get swept if you try to go to too high an area too early in the game. This would be the intended order by level courtesy of Polygon. Now that's not to say everything needs to be scaled. But as far as the main storyline challenges, yeah, they probably should. If the game's gonna shoehorn you towards the easier challenges anyway, then what's the point of the open world? But I digress. So there are 3 main branches of gameplay: Victory Road, the Path of Legends, and Starfall Street. First, let's talk about Victory Road, the more traditional experience of the 3. The gyms were serviceable considering they're a staple in any mainline Pokemon game, but the gym challenges felt so bare bones and just borderline arbitrary. Find 10 Sunflora who are not even hiding. Bring me my wallet. Push the olive. Somehow they even made snowboarding on a dinosaur boring. And maybe it's just me, but this iteration of gym leaders feels very forgettable. I don't really remember any of them except Larry because he kicked my ass twice, and Tulip for obvious reasons. Ooh wee! She got that. The battles with these gym leader were also pretty forgettable. The same monotype thing that you'd expect, but even when they terrestrialize their Pokemon, they turn it into the same monotype as the rest of their team, rather than throwing you off by mitigating their obvious weaknesses. Now keep in mind that I hate Sword and Shield, but remember when the gym leaders all came out in the stadium? Now that was memorable. But of course, if you had 8 models on screen at the same time in Scarlet and Violet, the game would probably crash. At least the Elite Four were pretty memorable though, and they offered some fun, challenging battles. The real problem with the Pokemon League is its shitty champion. They spent the whole game hyping Geeta up as the legendary La Primera, greatest of all champions, only for you to find out she knows nothing of basic team composition. I mean, her team is ass. She has a fish. A Hazard Setter is her last Pokemon, and King Gambit, a Pokemon that gets stronger the more allies are knocked out, right in the middle of her team. She was pathetically easy for a champion. Had a harder time with some of the gym leaders. The next facet of gameplay is the Path of Legends. I feel like this is probably the most enjoyable branch of the game, at least story-wise. This is Arvin, and him's dog very thick. You're supposed to help him defeat the Titan Pokemon so that he can cure his sick dog with some of the magical herbs that the Titan Pokemon protect. Pretty simple, and far-off locations of the Titans give you time to do some exploring. This is also how you unlock new travel abilities for your ride Pokemon. There's Dash, which you really don't want to do because the game will spawn a Pokemon right in front of you every 3 seconds. High Jump, Climb, the ability to swim, and worst of all,
Infinity and beyond.
the Glide ability, which is almost completely useless. I know it's called Glide and not Fly, but was it necessary for them to make it so damn limited? Like, what were they worried was gonna happen? Let's see how long you can actually stay in the air. Other than that, I can't really complain too much about the Path of Legends. It was fun, it had a satisfying conclusion. Some of the Titans animations were a little bit janky, but other than that, pretty good. The final, and easily the worst part of the gameplay loop, is the Team Star base raids. And I made the dreadful mistake of saving them all for last because I thought they would be fun. Again, I was wrong. Team Star raids are just a gauntlet of smashing the R button as hard as you can while the game fights for its life not to crash, trying to render all the Team Star members and their Pokemon on screen at once. It's incredibly easy. A matter of fact, if you just stand there, Team Star's Pokemon don't even do anything. and they all end in what is essentially the same boss fight against a big Rev of Room car. And after you beat each leader, there's a flashback to a year and a half ago to when each leader left the school. But I guarantee you at this point in the game, you don't give a damn. The story's kind of uninteresting, to be honest, and you just want the game to be over at this point. It all culminates in battling Penny, who gives off some serious school shooter vibes, in the schoolyard at night, where you find out that all these freaks only formed Team Star because they were being bullied, but they definitely deserved it. Now I get to thinking, at this point in the game I've been to every town, and I've yet to find a nursery, a daycare, or a ranch or anything like that. So how do you breed Pokemon in this game? Yeah, while you're at your little picnic making little sandwiches, your Pokemon are under the table, clapping cheeks. The worst part is it's actually a really good quality of life improvement over previous games. Now you don't have to go to the nursery, and you can breed multiple Pokemon at once as long as they're in your party. But the implications! So that's why I think Gimmigholes are fucking stupid. That dumbass little noise they make keeps me up at night and haunts me in my sleep. They're only around when you're not looking for them, and when you are looking for them, they are nowhere to be found. Even worse, you need 999 Gimmighoul coins to evolve one into this stupid thing, and in 120 hours of gameplay, I've only found about 600 of them? Holy shit! Well, kings, queens, and emperors, we finally made it to the end game. After completing all 3 branches of the main story, you unlock the last story, titled The Way Home. Kind of like Sonic Heroes if you're old enough to remember that. So your character, along with your so-called friends, Arvin, Penny, and Nimona, take the most needlessly dangerous jump I've ever seen down into the extremely dangerous and unpredictable Area 0. Oh, actually it's not that bad down here at all. Area 0 is basically nothing. It looks like anywhere else in the game, but with a fog effect, some pixie farts, and occasionally a misplaced crystal here or there. It feels like a real missed opportunity to implement some game mechanics from Legends Arceus. Imagine if you had to weigh your options between fighting or stealthing away from aggressive roaming Paradox Pokemon on your way down the crater. Instead, there's just birds and giraffes. For whatever reason, you can't ride Quarry Dawn here, so you're forced to continue on foot. But it's really more like the developers wanted you to take the time to read the interactions between your companions. However, the lack of voice acting here is so grating. The text just flies by, so reading their conversation is a lot like watching an anime with subtitles that you also have to play. Eventually, you and your party do make it to the bottom of the crater, and they drop an absolute bombshell. Okay. It's Big Bro! It's Big Bro Quarry Dawn! That's right, there's actually 2 Quarry Dawns, and yours is a fucking beta cuck. Oh, also Arvin's mom is extremely dead. And also a robot. So the final battle is against Arvin's dead robot mom and her team of incredibly powerful Oonga Boonga Pokemon, including Roaring Moon.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass.
This monstrosity effortlessly reverse swept my entire team on my first try. I mean, seriously, Roaring Moon is an absolute menace. So you beat her Chad Quarry Dawn with your Cuck Quarry Dawn, and she gets sucked into the anus of time. I mean, I'm not the only one that thought this looked like a mechanical butthole, right? Right? Roll credits. Pretty crazy it took this many people to make an awful game. Post-game? There is no post-game. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but barely. They make you challenge all 8 gym leaders again, who use the same teams and strategies just at a higher level, to enter a school tournament where you battle your friends and teachers who use the same teams and same strategies but at a higher level. Then you face off against Gita again, who uses the same shitty team, the same shitty strategies, just at a higher shitty level. And after that, there is nothing. No battle tree, no battle tower, no battle frontier, nothing. Well, nothing but a shitty 0 frame per second classroom level cutscene where they reuse so many models. I can't believe they ended the game on a cutscene like this. They could have at least bothered to make it look good. I mean, we know they have more character models in this. They literally use them throughout the game. And yet there's 3 of the same girl, 2 of the same boy. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And your only reward for beating the game is objectively the worst hat I've ever seen in my life. Now that I've walked you through my disappointing playthrough, I want to lay down all my afterthoughts about like game design and art direction. Okay, first of all, the realistic textures don't work. The characters look either cartoonishly realistic or maybe it's realistically cartoonish. My point is, and this is a hot take, Sword and Shield looked good, at least comparatively. The art direction was just objectively better. Let's just not talk about the trees. Even the cities were pretty well designed to fit into a certain theme. Like they said, let's make a town to give the player a hint at the gym leader's theme. And we got these gorgeous towns like Balunea or Hammerlock. In Scarlet and Violet, they said, man, how do we give the players a hint about the gyms through the town design? And they said, got it, 60 fucking gold ducks. None of the towns outside of maybe Mesagosa feel unique, let alone memorable. Even worse, this was kind of their strategy in every main town. Just shit some adequately typed Pokemon all over the place. And while we're on the towns, it's nice that they're adequately sized, but they're big for no reason. 90% of the buildings are inaccessible, and the few that you can go into are just shops with menus. All the shops are just copy-paste in each town and rarely have a unique selection. Is there any reason you have a backpack store next to a hat store, next to a glasses store, next to a sock store, next to a shoe store, instead of them all just being one damn shop? The more realistic they try to make things, the more not realistic stuff stands out. You've got this scaly textured ancient Quarry Dawn right next to the most disgusting set of low poly repeated floor tiles ever. And Scarlet and Violet's characters are all dead-eyed, soulless, voiceless, emotionless cardboard cutouts. As much as I hate to keep referring back to Sword and Shield, which I cannot stress enough was not a very good game, the characters were expressive and unique and they fit really well into the setting. I mean, just look at this comparison of Raihan Dynamaxing and Gita Terastallizing. Just look at the difference between the love and the care between both animations. With Raihan's, they had a really cool idea and they wanted to make it look fun, and with Gita, she's just kind of doing it because she has to, I guess. And maybe I'm just paying too much attention, but some of these Pokemon gas stations are just way out here in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, where do these clerks live? They're just out here high as fuck all day and all night. There ain't even a door or like any way for them to get behind there except for climbing over the counter. And I've walked around the whole thing. They don't even have like a break room. The only door I see here is behind this stupid fucking TM machine. So they don't even get to take a break. And for all the quality of life improvements they've made, why are they at the cost of others? Like, why can't I have a picnic while riding a Pokemon? If it's that big a deal, then why doesn't the game just take me off of them? Why do I have to do it myself? And when you exit shops, you tend to be facing the same direction that you were facing when you walked in, which makes you stupidly walk right back into the shop. And the user interface is so goddamn slow sometimes. Your PC box loads one Pokemon at a time for some reason. Even going back and forth, it has to reload them. Why is this so hard? This wasn't a problem in any other game. Also, you will 100% forget what is mapped to the D-pad arrows and I guarantee you're gonna open the extremely slow customization menu a million times, which gives you just enough time to think about how stupid you are before you can get out of it. In closing, I guess Game Freak just keeps disappointing me at every turn. They've made a real habit of cutting corners and just releasing games in like pathetic states. There's no way Scarlet and Violet should be this bad 8 months after release. It also always occurs to me that whenever Game Freak cuts content from a Pokemon game, it's more times than not just to sell it back to you later. Yes, I'm still mad about Dexit or whatever, but they took some Pokemon out, then sold them back to you later as DLC. They made the clothing customization extremely limited, and then they sell it back to you later as DLC. There's just always some type of cash grab. You paid for Home for 8 months, with no actual announce date for Scarlet and Violet compatibility other than so-called early 2023. I've also noticed that most of the competitively viable Pokemon this generation are the ones that kind of require other games for you to acquire them. All the Hisui Pokemon that you get from Legends Arceus, Gold and Go, which can be acquired a lot quicker if you also play Pokemon Go, and I'm willing to bet that whatever they add through the game through the $35 DLC is going to be meta as well. Speaking of the DLC, we live in a golden age of game development. At the risk of sounding like an aging millennial, back in my day they had to release a whole nother game to get more content. Now they can just add more content later via DLC. So tell me, why is the 2-part DLC for Scarlet and Violet only compatible with the respective game that you buy it for? Yeah, the DLC is not cross-compatible with both versions of the games. You don't just buy the DLC, you have to buy the Scarlet DLC for Scarlet version and the Violet DLC for Violet version, which still at the time of the recording of this video don't have a release date, which is honestly ridiculous. I mean, it's crazy enough that they're selling DLC for a game that's still riddled in bugs and glitches. Though most of them at this point aren't game breaking, it's still just uncomfortable to think about. Look, I think all my critiques are pretty valid, but if you disagree or agree with me, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. I mean, fight me on this. Fucking fight me. Game Freak's got a lot to do if they want to regain my trust. But in the meantime, out of 10, I think I give this game a hasta la vista, bitch. And hey, if you had fun here, maybe check out my entire Scarlet playthrough, which will probably be in these videos right here. Maybe click the like and subscribe button. I don't know. It's up to you. Do it!